Welcome back to the Tracy Hamlin Show. We are here with the amazing and talented pianist, composer, and music educator, Quentin Walston. It's just, I'm thoroughly enjoying our conversation, Quentin, because you're just giving us some insight to things that we haven't previously heard about from pianist. So when I know that you recorded solo projects, how many solo projects have you released?
Let's see, I've done my first EP featured some solo music and it also featured some trio tracks. And that was kind of just getting my name out there with a bunch of jazz standards. And then a few years ago, I released my first full length album, Play. And that was almost all compositions. It was just like, here's my compositional voice, check it out. And I threw everything I had at it. So there's saxophone, there's trumpet. I even recorded a take with the Hammond organ. So that was a big project and a learning experience in itself. I released Pipe Smoke, which is one of my favorite pieces. I actually wrote it for my dad. It was one of my earliest compositions. And that was a single that came out. And then most recently was the Good Book Suite, which is a 4-movement suite that I wrote for my trio. And then I've got some other stuff in the pipeline. So I find that I'm always writing and always creating.
I love that. So when you decide that you're going to go in and record, what is your process? Are you the producer? Do you bring in a producer? Are you writing all of your own material, or do you also reach out to other songwriters for music for your albums?
So far, I've been my own producer and writer. I'll have a very clear idea of what I want the song to go like, and I'll collaborate with my trio or my band that I'm using because I play with them frequently. I really trust them. So if they're going to bring something that I can't bring to the music, I more than welcome that, especially when it comes to things that just I don't know enough about. Like my drummer can do amazing things on drums that I couldn't do by suggesting. Like the worst thing you can do for a drummer is to beatbox towards them. Be like, can you do a drum thing that sounds like this? They don't want to hear that. I'd much rather let my drummer do what he thinks my composition needs.
Okay.
And then as far as the other kind of elements of a recording project, what I really look for when bringing other people in are the audio engineers. So the people that are doing the mixing or actually in the sound booth, setting up the microphones, stuff like that, because they have such an important role on what the final product sounds like. So I can play the coolest solo, but if I don't have a strong audio engineer that I trust, it's not going to come out as well as I would have hoped.
I always say with artists, I think it's so important that as independent artists, we need to be mindful about where we are willing to spend the money. And that whole engineering piece is super, super important because you want to make sure that whether it's your vocals, your instrument, you want to make sure the presentation is received as close to your vision as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to make sure you have a great recording engineer, a great person that's going to mix and master your project. And I can't bring that home enough that, your presentation is everything. So you need to make sure the professionals get they're able to add their magic. I think that is so important. So Quentin, you're also a music educator. How are you able to balance the two, with being a working musician and recording artist as well as a music educator? How are you able to balance your schedule?
It's been a challenge, and it's something I think that's kind of always slightly shifting, trying to focus on what needs to happen at the moment. Right now I'm teaching entirely private lessons, and those are kind of during the day. I have a lot of homeschool students. I'm able to do that in the daytime and leave my evenings for performing, which I found has been a really nice balance. Before, when I do a lot of where I had done a lot of lessons in the evening, after school lessons, that tended to conflict with trying to get gigs and just was really tense trying to have to reschedule things like that. So right now I have a nice arrangement. What I'm really excited for with this teaching balance is hopefully in the fall, we'll be starting the Loudoun Youth Jazz Orchestra, which will be an ensemble where I'll be the music director. And that's actually going to combine both of them, because then I get to be a music educator. I get to lead these students and help them develop their skill. But then I can also compose and write and arrange for them. So I'm looking forward to what that balance has to offer.
Yeah, and what I love, well, I know for me, being a recording artist and pursuing my dream and passion of becoming a singer led me to my purpose of giving back to the community and grooming up and coming artists. Do you feel the same way? Because I know you're very passionate about what you do with the youth and music.
Absolutely. I realizing that being a piano teacher isn't just limited to being a piano teacher is a really important and humbling experience when you realize that. I mean, you're basically a positive role model in these child's lives, and these families are trusting you with that. Just because I see someone for a half hour a day, a week, doesn't mean I'm just there to work on their fingering and help them read their bass clef notes. I'm there to be a positive influence, to show them what dedication and what work ethic is and what practice is. And hopefully these things that will spill out into their entire life, not just what they're doing in front of the piano. So it's a huge responsibility, but one that I feel really blessed to have.
Oh my goodness, we could talk about this for days, because I mean, when you decide to take music lessons and you're serious about it, there is a huge piece of music therapy that is involved. So even as a vocal coach, I've seen so many tears in the lessons, but you have to dig down deep and really address those emotions, because it really adds to how you sing and how you play, because it helps you to translate your trials and tribulations and your emotions to the actual piece that you're singing or playing on. So it's so very important. So what is next for Quentin Walston?
Right now, I'm in a composition season of my life, so to speak, and that's in preparation for a podcast that I'm starting this fall. So the podcast is called Brilliant Corners, which is a nod to a Thelonious Monk composition. And I'm collaborating with a poet named Sean Murphy, and he wrote all these songs that are attributed or based on different jazz masters, from John Coltrane to Billie Holiday to Ornette Coleman. And what I'm going to do is create compositions that match that poetry, that match that artist, and we're going to present them each episode as a unit. So right now, I'm actually in the middle of composing 3 songs. Right now, I'm working on a Billie Holiday song that I called Lady Day. I'm working on a John Coltrane song based on his ballad Naima that I'm calling Grace is a Gift. And then I wrote a Thelonious Monk song really loosely based on some ideas from his song 16. So I'm calling it 8-8. So it's been a really, really fun project where I get to go inside of the artist's mind and try to really grab what I think is so important about that person and try to make my own version. And the other flip side is I don't want to be a parody of their music. So that's especially challenging with Thelonious Monk, who has such a identifiable sound. So it's been a really rewarding process for me. And also just some of the emotions you brought up with vocalists. I mean, Billie Holiday, she put her soul out every single night. And so trying to just capture that, and how do I relate to what she went through, and trying to express her as a song, as one composition, has been a really, really rewarding but challenging process. So I'm really excited to show people these songs once they're ready to be released.
Well, let me tell you, I can't wait. And I'm just enthralled with your authenticity, because the music has just become so much about programming. And I'm not knocking programming. I'm just saying, I just love the passion and the research and the historic pieces of what you're doing. So I'm super excited to hear the project and tune into the podcast. Quentin, where can people keep up with you in social media? Share your socials with us.
So everything is at Quentin Walston, QuentinWalston. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. You can follow me on Spotify, pretty much every streaming platform. You can find my music. You can find my posts. So I have a website, QuentinWalston.com. So please check it out. There's a lot of good music on there, and I really hope you all enjoy it.
Yes, and coming up on August the 8th, Quentin will be performing for Tracy Hamlin's Sweet Jazz Concert on Saturday, August the 6th at Belmont Country Club. For more information, you can go to sweetjazzconcerts.com. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, Quentin. And we look forward to checking you out and hearing you on August 6th. Again, check him out, QuentinWalston.com. This is Tracy Hamlin, Dorothy Marie Hamlin's baby girl, signing off. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Ooches of smooches, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.